Hey guys, it's been a while since I don't do these kinds of videos, so for those new to the channel, here we like status ailments and elemental builds. Just keep in mind that these builds are for solo hunting. I haven't checked if in multiplayer the base stats to proc are higher, but it has been like that for a while, so most likely it is not a good idea to use status builds, unless your whole team is running these kinds of weapons. For those new to the franchise, what happens is that after each proc the monster becomes more resilient to the ailment. For the sake of the example, these are some values from Sunbreak. The thing is that let's say that at first you need 20 hits, then you're going to need 50, then 70 and something along those lines, so it becomes harder to proc. Within monster stats you can see some images that pretty much let you know if it is a good idea to use the ailment or not. That is another way to say the number of hits it's going to be needed to proc or if they recover faster, so I try to use the ailment when they have 2 of those stars. Another thing worth mentioning is that as of the making of this video there aren't many options, so I try to keep my builds comfy but as efficient as possible with the decos I have at hand. And unfortunately there are no sleepy lances. I tried to check if it was worth creating one, but nah, hard pass from my side. It doesn't have a good stat and it's quite gimmicky to get the 3 sleepy parts. Without further ado, let's begin. For the paralysis and poison build, we can use the same loadout. The way in which I thought this build was that oftentimes monsters change at least once to another area, and considering that it becomes harder to proc, my idea was to use the poison weapon in the first half and then change to the paralysis. That way I can keep procs relatively fresh and foray helps to keep the damage slightly up. And as there aren't many reliable ways to have a decent affinity, I am using Weakness Exploit, Antivirus and Foray to get something like 45 to 100 affinity. Of course it's going to depend if I am hitting a wound, if the monster has a status, and if I cure the frenzy. Personally, I don't find it hard to work around those gimmicks, considering that you can quickly spam attacks. Just keep in mind that the paralysis has no guard up, which can complicate some things. Aside from that, the only important decos to consider are 1 Weakness Exploit, 2 Antivirus and 1 Foray. Aside from that, I will say guard is relatively optional depending from your particular playstyle. As for the paralysis, that Master Touch was a lucky roll, and considering that its white sharpness is quite good, I decided to have that on my side. As for the rest of the slots, you can add extra skills. In my case I like that adaptability so I can forget about rings and the terrain where I am fighting. Constitution is also quite good, helpful as you may require some stamina depending from your playstyle. It would have been cool to have critical status 3 and coalescence 3, but for the time being it is a decent approach. As for the blast lance, here I am going quite conservative with guard 3, blast attack 3, along agitator and weakness exploit. It's worth mentioning that blast helps to break parts, so I decided to add the extra part break to mess with the monsters relatively fast. My only concern here is that this lance has a negative affinity, so it has to be patched, and that its sharpness is blue, so it may feel a bit off against certain monsters or particular parts. Aside from that, it works quite well, and you can add almost any other lance in case you need to work around certain challenges. That is the whole list of decos I am using. Probably the hardest one to get is guard 3, but everything is going to depend from your decos. At the end of the day, it's just because of comfort. With this, I hope you found this video informative, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.